me get, well, I don't know why this is not working. Okay, so everyone, this is Photoshop Content Aware. Now, Content Aware has been around for a long time. It's been around since about CS5. And in the beginning, we really didn't know what to do with it. But it improved every year. And now it has improved a great deal. It even has its own dialog box. But let me show you the other one, just so you can compare the two and understand what's happening. So I have this image of this cat, and I have my layers panel open over here on the right. I'm going to duplicate that layer by selecting the background layer, pressing Command J to duplicate the layer, so that I'm working on a layer that is, I'm not destroying my original. Oh, by the way, Content Aware only works on a pixel layer, which means you cannot use it with a smart object, at least not yet. So the first thing we have to do is tell Photoshop that we want what we want to do. Where do we want to, what do we want Content Aware to fill? So I want to get rid of this tag. So I'm going to go get a one of my wand tools. I'm going to go get the quick selection tool because I think it'll select this very quickly. I'm going to reduce my brush size a little bit and just select this. And you can see that it made a pretty good selection. Let me zoom in on that. So we've got a pretty good selection there. Now, for any of you that have done this kind of, that are doing this kind of work, you know that even though this selection is nice, it's going to leave a little white band all the way around it. I also see I've missed part of the tag here. So I just ran my quick selection tool over that and added it to my selection. So now I have the selection. I would like to expand it just a little bit so I don't get that little white border all the way around. So I'm going to go up to my select menu up here on the top, and I'm going to scroll down to modify, and I'm going to say expand. And I'm going to set this at about 3 pixels. The more resolution your image has, the more you may need to adjust this expansion depending on your resolution. I'm going to click OK, and you can see that it came in, it expanded very nicely, very nicely. So now I'm going to show you the magic. I'm going to go up to Edit. This still, the original Content Aware fill still lives in Photoshop now. I'm going to go over here to Fill and bring up the Fill dialog box. Now, normally when you bring this up, we have foreground color, background color, color, but we also have Content Aware, and we're going to choose that. Whoop, Content Aware. And then I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and watch, it's going to happen fast. And that's not half bad for the kind of selection it is. Photoshop is guessing. It's analyzing all the pixels around this, and it's guessing how this works. So let me show you how it could work with the new Content Aware fill. All right, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back to where I still have my selection. I still have layer 1 selected, and I'm going to go up to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Whoop, chose the wrong one, sorry. Oh, and this is very fun. All right, so over here on the left, we have a preview window. It's showing you, or actually it's the work panel window. It's showing you the area that has a color on it. That is where Photoshop is pulling the content from to fill this area of the tag. So when I look at this area that it's using, I really don't want this part out here. So notice that on the top we have a brush, or actually it's on the left. We have a brush, we have a lasso tool, that we have the hand, and we have the zoom tools. These just allow you to navigate the workspace. But the brush tool, you can add or you can take away. So it defaulted to the take away space, and I'm going to get rid of this part here because that's not the area that I want to fill with. And I'm also going to get rid of this part over here. And a little bit here and here. However, I might want some of this part. That might be good. It's always good to give Photoshop as much information as you can. So I'm going to go and select my plus on the brush because now I'm adding. If you want to adjust your brush size, you can go over here to the size and use the slider, or you can also use your bracket keys on your keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and just choose the plus and highlight this in and just color it over. Okay. Whoop. These also work with the option key. If I change my option, let me see if you can see this. If I hold down my option or my alt key, my brush turns into a minus. So you can toggle back and forth with these. I'm going to get rid of that part. And notice what is happening over here in this part of the image. This is the preview part. Oh, shoot. Just do this. Now this is a live draw, a live preview. So it will update as soon as you make an adjustment here. It will update over here. And I've got a little bit of a problem here. So you can, one of the issues with this is you don't know exactly where this problem came from. So you can change some of these settings and see how Photoshop updates. So let's talk about what's on the right. We have, well, I tell you what, I'd rather do this on another image so I can show you something else. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to deselect. And it put my correction on its own layer. So now if I need to go in and maybe just go get my eraser and erase that part right there. Oh, I can't erase that part, it covers up that. But I can now start to clone over this by using a clone tool, maybe even a healing brush, because I have it on its own layer. So it's awesome. It's awesome that way. I want to go to this image. So this is an example of how content aware, the old content aware, doesn't really work as well as the new one. The first thing I'm going to do is duplicate my background layer, Command or Control J, and I'm going to get rid of this bottle right here. So first I have to tell Photoshop I need a selection. I need to tell Photoshop what I'm doing. Right here, where I got really close, you don't want to get really close. You want to be sure if Photoshop has plenty of space to make its adjustments. So now I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to show you the old Content Aware Fill. Like I said, when Content Aware Fill works well, it's great. But sometimes it does this because it's trying to guess where to pull content from. It did not understand where to go with that. So sometimes you get very unexpected results, as we say. So I'm going to undo that. And this time I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. And this time you can see right away that it chose exactly what it needed to choose to get rid of that image. I call this a perfect world image. It has no background, no contrast in the background, no drop shadows. So this one is relatively easy for Photoshop to figure out. But you can see it right here, so you kind of know what you're going to get. So I want to talk about what's over here on the left on the Content Aware Fill panel. So the first is the sampling area. You can turn it on or turn it off by just clicking the checkbox. You can also control the opacity. Sometimes, depending on your image, you may need to have more opacity or less. Notice that when I do more opacity, I can see that content aware fill chose areas of these bottles that I really didn't want it to choose. In this case, it didn't make a big difference, but sometimes it can. So sometimes you just need to increase that opacity just so you can see where Photoshop is looking for content. This is the color box. Now, when you use this on your computer, the default color is a funky green color that I don't care for. So I changed it. If you want to change it, it's just a color box, brings up the color picker, choose your new color and click OK, and you'll be able to change the color. Over here, we have indicates. The purple right now indicates the sample color. You can also have it exclude the area. Not sure how you would use that, but that option is there. And we don't know what we don't know. We might find a reason to use that. Here we have the 3 sampling area options. The first is auto. It works great. I use it most of the time. You can also choose a rectangular, and it will allow you to have a rectangular selection. Oh, it's not going to work for me. The custom one, which is really helpful, is if you have more than one item you want to select, you can create a custom selection. So to do that, you go to your, select custom, go to your image and make a selection of the item you want. Oh, that's not a selection. Let me undo that. Get my lasso tool and make a selection of the item I want. Always have to tell Photoshop what it is you want. And I'm going to fix this a little bit because I'm worried about it. Oops. Okay. And now I can make the area selection where I want Photoshop to pull content from. Okay, that was enough area. I didn't do as much white as Photoshop did on the automatic feature, but it still allowed me to get rid of both items. So that's a great feature if you need to use it. Always remember that Photoshop is sticky. If you leave this on custom, when you come back to it later, it will stay at custom. So I like to remember to put it back on auto, so it will automatically do that for me. Now, this is when it gets interesting. Let me show you this when we go to another image. You can actually adjust your fill settings for color adaptation and rotation adaptation, scale, and mirror. But let me show you that in a moment. For the output settings, we have the current layer, a new layer, or a duplicate layer. The current layer will put it on the layer that you have chosen this from, but it will embed that in the image. A new layer will put this on its own layer all by itself, and a duplicate layer will also embed the image. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now I have my 2 overlays on top of this, and I can adjust them, I can flatten them, I can turn these into smart objects if I need to. Let me show you, this is a really good example of the fill settings. So let me get to this. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with getting rid of this glass. I'm going to go and get my marquee, rectangular marquee, and make a selection. Now, when you make these selections, sometimes you want to include the drop shadow. Sometimes you don't. I'm going to leave it like it is just to show you how it works. Oh, I forgot to duplicate my layer. Command J, make my selection. And let's go to Edit, content aware fill. So I'd like to close that, but my cursor doesn't seem to want to work. If you look over here at my preview, it's picked up a lot of the content from this lower part here on the image. So I'm going to go and get my brush minus, and I'm going to get rid of that. And you don't even have to be real neat with this. You can be kind of sloppy. That was a little more than I wanted to take. And that was pretty good for going as fast as it did. This to me looks like some of that drink. And I can see that over here, I have part of the purple covering that drink. So let me take that away. And that doesn't look really too bad. Understand that this tool is also supposed to get you most of the way there. This is a really good start. I would want to go in and work on this part of the image after I've gotten rid of it, but this is a big step forward. When you go over here to the fill settings, this is where I wanted to show you a little bit about them. This will adjust if you're not getting a smooth transition, if you're not getting the lines lining up right away, if the color is off a little bit. You can work with the color adaptation. Let me go to high. And you can see that this color resolved up a little bit better. I'm going to try very high just to show you what it looks like. And I'm not so happy with that. I've got texture up here that I don't care for. So high did pretty well. And then rotate. You can do a low, and it rotates the image ever so slightly. You can see it in this line right here. Ooh, you can really see it there. When I went to medium rotation, it kind of skewed that line. I think my line looked better when I had none, or yeah, none. You can also scale. Sometimes you need to scale, and you just kind of turn it on and off and see how it looks. Sometimes it looks better, sometimes not. Same thing is true with mirror. You can try the mirror. Yeah, I don't like that either. And then once you have it, sometimes it's all the way there, but once you have it at least most of the way there, you can go ahead and either say okay, or if you want to choose another glass, you can choose apply. And when you apply, it shows it here and here. So here's what I want to do. I want to get rid of this glass now. So I need to make a selection. I need to change it to custom. If I don't change it to custom, it will not let me select this next item. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. Notice how my selection on the left disappeared. I'm being a little more careful with this selection because I don't have a lot of content around it. Okay. Now I'm going to select my brush, and I want some of this content. I definitely want this, some of this. Is that enough? It appears that that was pretty close. Now, I'm not wild about this. I'm not sure if I add any more content over here, if it will be any better. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to go ahead and say apply again. And then I'm going to click OK. And now I have this glass on one layer, and I have this glass on another layer. Now, of course, I would either blend all or merge these 3 layers so I could continue to work on this background or this area. Or maybe I'm just going to fill it up with type and it doesn't really matter that it's out of focus. So that's kind of a cool feature with it. I'm going to show you one more, kind of more of a real world type example. So we want to get rid of this guy altogether, just using content aware fill. Now, the background's not bad, the ground's not bad. One thing I do see in this image, and any of you who have done retouching, you can see these like bright flags. This thing, this straw sticking out here is going to be a problem. And this fence post and this, I guess that's a rope cable, are going to be a problem for content aware fill. So before we take on content aware fill, I want to get rid of those. So let me do, first thing I need to duplicate my layer, Command or Control J. And I'm going to go over to my spot healing brush tool. And I want you to notice that the default behavior for the spot healing brush tool is now content aware. So Photoshop goes out with this tool and it tries to match it for texture and brightness and contrast and tries to replace it based on the content in the image. So I'm lowering my brush size a little bit. Spot healing tool is a brush, and how this works is you just drag over it. And I'm going to drag up to here. And that was pretty nice. A little bit here. Sometimes the normal default for this is a hard brush. Most of the time it works better that way, but you may also have the option to dial that hardness down, make the brush softer so that the edges are more feathered. Over here, more feathered might work. So I'm going to try this over on the right side. And seriously, if I were doing this for a client, I would be spending a lot more time on it. It wouldn't look as chunky. And that's not bad. And I also want to point out that when you're looking at this image, you're probably, that looks pretty bad though. You're probably not going to be looking for a stray straw over here or the fence back here. You're going to be looking at the main focus, but you still don't want it to look like it's been retouched if you can help it. So that needs work. We'll move on. I'm going to take my selection tool, I'm going to take a lasso tool, and I'm going to lasso around this fellow on the right. And I'm giving him plenty of room. Need to double check my layers. Yep, on the right layer. And I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Really, I need to see if I can get this to. Yes. Okay. Okay. So see, I left it on custom, so it didn't do it for me. I didn't make a selection for me. So I'm going to go over and choose auto. And wow, I'm impressed. I've done this exercise 3 or 4 times, and this is by far the best one. So outside of some stuff right here that I can go back and clone away later, getting rid of this guy did a really good job, I think. And again, we can go over to color adaptation and see if it looks any better. Oh, well, that's not better. And that's really not better. Okay, so the default looks good. Scaling. No, scaling didn't work. And mirror. Well, mirror, that might work, but I'm gonna leave it. I think I like the other one better. I still have a problem here. I have a problem here, but now I can go and I can fix those when I'm back in Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. And then I can go and get one of my retouch tools and retouch this area, the clone tool or the patch tool, either one of those. And that is the basics of content aware. Any questions? Okay. I'm going to close all, and I'm going to, oh, yeah, don't save. And I'm going to open up a couple other images. Okay, so the crop tool now has a content aware feature with it as well. So I'm going to go to my layers panel once again, and I'm going to do Control or Command J to duplicate the layer, hide the background here. And I want to take my crop tool and I'm going to straighten this file just a little bit. So I'm going to go over here, select my crop tool, and I want you to notice up here on your options bar is a little checkbox that says content aware. You have to be sure you have that checkbox selected. And I'm also going to use the straighten feature of the crop tool. So I'm going to go and get my straighten feature. And I am going to, notice I have content aware check marked, and I'm going to guess. I'm going to say maybe like that. And I'm not thrilled with that, so I'm going to undo it and do it again. Get my straighten. Oh, much better. And now if I cropped it like this, just like this, I would have empty spaces. But this is why Adobe came up with content aware. Content aware has to, you either have to, click on the check mark to commit your crop, or the new 2020, you can just press enter and it will commit your crop. And look at that. Not only did it straighten it, it filled in these areas. This area down here, I might go back and work on. It's a little bit, it looks a little bit generated, but I could cover it up with flowers easy enough. And it did a very nice job up here on my sky. So content aware fill, it's great if you're doing retouching old photos that have missing corners, things like that. It fills in really well. Okay, so we don't have this one yet. So here's something else that the crop tool can do. Now, when you choose the crop tool and you have content aware, you can also add canvas if you need to add canvas. In this case, my client wanted to use this picture and wanted me to put type up in this part up here, but I really didn't have enough sky to put type in the sky. So I wanted to use content aware to add just a little bit of sky. One thing you should be aware of when you're doing this is look out for problems, things that are going to cause you problems before you use content aware. And one of the things that will cause me a problem for sure is over here, I have these two trees on the right, parts of trees. And so these parts of the trees, content aware will try to reproduce, and then I'll have just bigger ugly trees there. So let's go over and get the patch tool. More and more of the retouching tools are using content aware, and patch tool does have that option. Oh, let me move this up. So up here, we can choose content aware. It is a drop-down menu. It has, come on. It has another feature, but I don't know why. I believe it's normal, but why would you use anything else? We have structure and we have color. Structure goes from 1 to 7, color goes from 1 to 10, and that will depend on how good your patch works. So let's get out of here. So here's what I want to do is I'm going to go over here. Actually, I'm going to move my structure all the way down, and I'm going to move my color all the way down right now. I like to start at 0. And I'm going to drag a little selection around this part of the tree with my patch tool. And it makes cute little selection, kind of like the lasso tool. The trick with this tool is you place the patch tool inside your selection, and then you move it to where you want it to be. Now, I have a tree going there, so I want to move it into a tree area. And I'm going to pick that. And that's kind of okay. As long as I have this selection in place, I can go up here to structure and to color, and I can change that. So I'm going to change my structure a little bit. I'm going to move it up to 3. And when I press my tab key, you can see how it changed a little bit. The structure got a little bit better. I can see more of the leaves. I can see more of the content. This is a low-res file, so it's not going to get a whole lot better. But let's go ahead and move the structure up to, or the color up to 3, and see how it improved the color around this area. So just remember that you have to have your selection in place, but you can still go back and address just structure and color. So I'm going to deselect, and I'm going to get rid of this tree now, doing the same thing. And I can you just kind of find the right spot where you want it. Do wish I had gone a little longer here. And let's see, for structure, I don't think it's going to get better with any structure, but I do want to try the color. Let's move that up to 7. And that got way better, way better. So, so now I think we're ready to go ahead and add content. All right. Okay, I don't know what happened to my tools. Okay. All right, I'm going to go and get my crop tool, and I'm going to drag up just a little bit. I should point out that I'm dragging up, I have just so much sky here, you know, maybe quarter, maybe half an inch. I'm hoping Content Aware is smart enough to realize that I don't want the green part, that I only want the blue part. But I'm going to just drag it up a little bit and then commit my crop. Ooh, and that's not bad. Actually, I want a little more. So you can do this in phases. So I'm going to set my crop again. I'm going to drag the, oops, need to grab the crop and not the image. Drag it up again. Commit my crop. And now I have a nice little piece of sky to put a headline on. Granted, if you're there's a lot of ways to add sky. It's going to depend on why you want to add sky, but you can add other things besides sky anytime you have this Content Aware selected. Okay, let's go to Content Aware Move. This is one of the newer retouch tools. So I'm going to go, oh, I still have my crop tool selected, so I want to get away from that. Go into my layers palette. I'm going to duplicate the layer, Control or Command J. And over on the retouch tools, I want to go down to Content Aware Move Tool. You're going to see more and more Content Aware. So up here on top, on the mode, we have 2 options. We have, we have the move, and when I click on this drop-down menu, it will say extend. We're going to do both of those. Structure is the same, 1 to 7, 0 to 10. And I'm going to take my Content Aware Move tool, and I am going to draw, once again, a loose selection around my image. I am going to put my cursor or my tool in the center of my object and then just move it up here. You have to commit your change. So I'm going to press my commit and it moves the object. It fills this area down here and then moves the object up here. Now you can see that it didn't do a very good job with this object. This is where structure comes into play. I'm going to move the structure to 5. Press enter. And now I have this part of my balloon back. This part's still kind of funky. So maybe I should take my structure up to 7. And I didn't really see any change. However, the color around here really needs some help. So I'm going to go up to my color and I'm going to start with 5 because there's such a disparity between the two, and press my tab key to commit it. And I don't know that that helped very much, so I'm going to move it up to 7. And that's not helping very much either, so I'm just going to take it all the way up. And sometimes Photoshop does a really good job with it, and sometimes it doesn't. I also want you to notice that this is an embedded image. You cannot put it on its own layer. It does embed in the file. So I've done this a couple times and gotten better results. Let me try this again. Maybe if I move it down a little bit. Oh, so just leaving all my settings the same, but just adjusting it, moving it down just a little, helped quite a bit. It is kind of dark. You may want to go in later and adjust that a little bit, but it gives you the opportunity to move something in an image if you need to. So that is content aware move. Now this one is content aware extend. It's very fun. Don't know why you'd use it, but you might. We need a selection first before we can extend. And because what I want to do is I want to extend, take about half of this bench, and I want to move it over to the left. So I'm going to use a rectangular selection tool for that. All you need is a selection. It doesn't have to be made with the content aware move or extend tool. I do want to include the shadow that is above the bench and the shadow that is below the bench. And I'm going to include that little line in the sidewalk as well. Now I'm going to go back and get my content aware move tool. But up here on the options bar where the mode is, I want to change this to extend. I'm also going to dial back my structure and dial back my color just so I'm starting at 0. And now I'm going to place my tool inside the selection and I'm going to drag it over and extend that bench. And what I'm looking for on the ground is I'm watching the shadow because I don't want to go too far. When you have this selection in place, you can use your arrow keys to scooch them up or down or right or left. So I was just kind of placing a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and commit my change. Oh my. And this is something that often happens with this particular tool. But my structure is at 1 and my color is at 0. So let's change my structure to 3. And that's better. I'm going to try 5. Well, I'm going to try 7 just to show you what it looks like. Oh, not too bad. A little bit right here. I got 2 of the boards a little close. But I actually don't think my color needs any adjusting. If I hide my selection, this is a little funky This is a little funky. I'm not sure. I'm going to try 5 on the color. Well, it helped a little. So just an idea. I'm not sure. I've never had an occasion to use this, but it's cool. And it really does a lot of the work for you. If you ever have a case where maybe you need to put a banner behind a poster or something, I don't know. But that's how content aware extend works. Any questions so far? You guys are really quiet.
Hey, Debbie, this is Pete. I have a question.
Sure.
Going right back to the beginning of your presentation.
Yes.
I was multitasking here, and I opened an image in Photoshop, flattened it, and then did Control J to get a new layer.
Yes.
And the content aware fill tool is great, or line and edit is grayed out still.
You have to have a selection. The only way content aware works is you have to create a selection around what you want.
I have to do the selection first. I got
it. Yes, you have to do the selection first.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to close all these, and I'm going to show you a couple more, and then we'll be done. Okay.
I just want to interject that the doc is the PSD file, right?
This is the one, yes.
And
.psd.
I upload it to the website separately. And what's the name of it again?
It's doc-photo by Kevin Weigard on unsplash.psd.
Yeah. So if you want to do this one, you have to download the PSD separate in the zip file all by itself. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. So this is called, it's brand new. It's grayed out right now, but it's called Content Aware Scale. So in this image, what we want to do is we want to make this a horizontal image, but even though it's vertical, we want to make it horizontal. And we don't want to distort the doc or the sign. So I want to show you a couple things first. So I'm going to do Control J, dilute, and duplicate the layer. And now I need to add some canvas. So I'm going to use the crop tool to add canvas. So I'm going to go get my crop tool. I need to, well, I can add canvas this way, but notice we have content aware. So let's just see what this does. What I want to do is I want to drag out each side about 2 inches. If I hold my Option key down while I drag, it will mirror on the other side. However, I lose my rulers, so I kind of have to eyeball it. And when I let go, content aware is thinking. Come on. There we go. And that's not bad. One of the things you try to avoid when you're doing retouching is repeating patterns, and that's really a repeating pattern. But I thought it did very well on the other stuff. This is also kind of repeating, so you might want to go back and fix that. But, you know, content aware for cropping is not bad. Let me show you some other things. I'm going to duplicate my background layer again so that we're working on that layer. Oh, actually, I have to get rid of the fill on this first. Okay. I'm going to duplicate that again too. Okay. So now I have my original image, and I want to, if I were to just transform this image, let me show you what would happen. First, I would like to make a selection of this image. I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform, and then I'm just going to drag it out. Well, first of all, I need to disable automatic. It's been so many years since with Photoshop where we've had to hold down 2 keys, and now we don't. I'm not used to it yet. So hold down my shift key to disable automatic proportion. And when I stretch my image, well, that's not what we want. We want this to be the same size it was, and we certainly don't want our sign to be messed up. So this is where content aware scale comes into play. Now, here's the thing. I want to protect this fence, this whole fence, this sign. I want to protect them. I don't want them to even move in my landscape. I want them to be protected. So rather than having you watch while I made kind of a tedious selection, I've already created that selection, and I'm going to load that selection now. So I'm going to go to Select, Load Selection, and when you go to the channel menu, there is the dock. And actually, I'm not going to do that either. I can say, okay, and it will, all this will do is show you the selection. You just have to have the selection in place for this to work. So once you make your selection, you save it, and then you can deselect it. I want to select just this part of the image. I don't want to select the blank parts over here. So I'm going to hold down the Control or the Command key, and I'm going to click on the thumbnail, and that does a selection of this image. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Scale. And I'm going to disable the proportional and just drag out my image. Notice how my sign is staying really pretty. My dock, not so much. And that's because I forgot to do one thing. Up here on top, on the options bar, we have protect, and I forgot to protect my dock. So let's undo that. I have my selection in place. I want to protect my dock. Now, once again, I will drag that out. I'll drag this one out and press my commit key. And it's already done. Over here, where I had repeating patterns before, that's much better. My dock did not move, my sign moved, and maybe my sign they just couldn't help it. It had to move. It made a mess of this part. So yeah, I would have to go back to my original document and probably clone from it to fix this, because that's just too much to select to try and fix. But I thought it did a fabulous job. I thought this whole background looks good. This area looks good. Obviously, it's going to change based on whatever it is you are trying to scale. But this is how I've seen it used the most, and I can't wait to use it on something. Okay, any questions? I know I went through that pretty quickly. All right, last one. Wow, just in time. Content, like I've said, content aware lives many places in Photoshop. And it's really helpful when it comes into retouching. Come on, there we are, Millie. So there's two more places Photoshop has content aware, and that is with the retouching tools. And of course, the first one is the spot healing brush. Its default is content aware. And to use the spot healing brush, I know a lot of you know this, but some of you don't, it decides where it's going to pull content from. Generally, it will pull content from the surrounding pixels, but sometimes you can be surprised. You just kind of draw over, color over the boo-boo, and like magic, content aware goes and fixes that. Now this one is a little harder, in the old days, we would spend hours cloning that out. But now we have the patch tool. And the patch tool, yes, we have normal and we have content aware. And that will make a difference with the patch tool from time to time. Content aware, I'm going to make a little selection around the name tag, drag it over here. I get a preview. It's showing me a preview of how my patch is going to look. And when I let go, deselect. Now, if you really look close, you can find the solid line around here. But from here, you're not going to be looking for a name tag that's not there. You're going to be looking at Millie's pretty face, and that's what you're going to be focusing on. And that's all I have for today, you guys. Any questions? Can I answer any questions?
No question, but nice going. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a little suggestion.
Absolutely.
I want to go back and try. So much of this is dependent on how accurate sometimes your selection is.
Absolutely.
One of the new features that I found really useful, for example, like with the balloons, rather than making a rough selection around it, the new select object has worked miracles for me in terms of picking the specific area that I wanted to move or to manipulate with the content aware tools. So, with the select objects, you can go in, you got 2 balloons there, you can just go around one balloon and it'll, it'll just select very specifically.
Yeah, the selection tools are a whole nother subject.
Oh, that's right. I was almost reluctant to point that out, but
no, you're bringing up good ideas for other content. All right, are we done for today? I'm done for today.